should be a lot of fun, and it's something quick and easy to put together. So we're not going to be here too long. I'm not sure if we're going to get through the baking process because it takes about 30 minutes to bake the bread, but we can, I'm sure, get it in the oven. So if there's anybody that's baking along, could they let Giovanna know in the chat, so we, I don't go too fast, and so you can keep up with the steps. So is there anybody that's going to be baking along with us? Just to say yes in the chat, or raise your hand or something like that, so we know if anybody's going to be baking along. Okay, we have somebody. We got one person. Oh, that's good. Hey, that's good. What?
Connie is baking along. I was just
great. So again, if you have any questions, you can type them into the chat, and Giovanna will tell me what they are. Or you can unmute yourself and ask the question. Sometimes that just might be a little distracting. If you let her know, then she can tell me that we have a question coming. And then at the end, you can just feel free to ask any questions you like. So let's get started. So Irish soda bread is made with, obviously, baking soda, which helps with the leavening. And it's also reacts with the acid that's in the buttermilk. So when you have, that's a base, so you need an acid to react with it. I don't know if you guys remember in science class how you'd mix the baking soda with the vinegar, which is an acid, and you create the volcano. So that's how we get the leavening in Irish soda bread. And it's similar to the family of like scones and biscuits. You want everything to be cold. You want to handle it as little as possible because you don't want it to be tough, but it's extremely easy and extremely quick to put together. So we'll get going. So I have this little camera right here that's going to show you what I'm doing, which is nice because you can see, from an aerial view what's going on in the bowl. Sometimes when you're just seeing from the side, it's hard to see. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to measure out our flour. And I'm using a scale today, which is the best way to get the most accurate ingredient measurement. Sometimes if you use the scoop and, a level off method, you might dig a little deeper one day than you did the day before. And you might say, oh, why is my cake a little tougher, or, why is it so liquidy because the flour is a little bit off or whatever. The only thing you can really do with the scoop is granulated sugar. That you can absolutely scoop, but you can also weigh it as well. So I'm going to get my scale going. And the scales are inexpensive. You could probably go to Costco and get one for $20, or maybe even less on Amazon. So I definitely, it's a really good thing to have. So I'm going to zero out. Okay, we're using 2 cups of flour. I'm using King Arthur flour, and on their website, you can find out how much 1 cup of their flour weighs, and theirs is 120 grams. So we're going to do 240. And just, scoop it out and put it right into the bowl. Here we go. And that way you get the same amount of flour every time you make whatever it is you're making. Okay, there we go, 240, right on the nose. And to that, we're going to be adding, move that out of the way. To that, we're going to be adding 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar. You can add an extra tablespoon if you like it sweet. You can hold back a tablespoon if you don't like it too sweet. There are some people that put no sugar at all. I like it to be a little bit sweet. And to that, we're going to add a half a teaspoon of our baking soda and a half a teaspoon of salt. There we go. And I'm going to take a whisk, and I'm going to whisk all the dry ingredients together, because we don't want to take a bite and bite into all baking soda. We want to make sure that it's totally mixed in with our flour and our sugar and everything. So I think that looks pretty good. Okay. Okay, so the next thing we're adding is 3 tablespoons of cold unsalted butter. We have a little more control over the salt that way. I added a half a teaspoon. If you want to hold back a little bit on the salt, that's perfectly fine. But I've cut it into about 1/2 inch cubes, and we're just going to toss it right in. And this is the same I would do for scones, biscuits, and even pie crust. But pie crust, we work a little less than this. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our hands, and we're going to make sure the butter is all coated with flour. And then we're going to start squeezing that butter between our fingers. And you can see with the overhead camera what I'm doing. And we want it to look like coarse cornmeal when we're done. We don't want to see big pieces of butter. We want to make sure that it's incorporated in the flour. If you were making pastry crust, like a pie dough, you'd want to see some big pieces of butter, because that's how you get your nice flaky dough. But for this, or biscuit or scone, we want to work it in pretty good. And you can see there's still some big pieces of butter. So we want to keep just squeezing it together and working it into the flour, just like this.
Tina, there's a question.
Anybody have any questions?
Sorry about the salt. If it's regular table salt, any special kind of salt?
I use the kosher. I use kosher salt. I find it dissolves a little better, and a lot of people say that it's less salty than table salt. And kind of what I mean by that is that the salt granules are bigger, so you get a little bit less than the tiny little ones of the table salt. So you're not getting as much. Some recipes say that if it calls for kosher and you only have regular salt, use half the amount as stated in the recipe. Did we get another one? I saw something pop up. Did we get another one?
Someone can't see the overhead view, but they're both pinned.
Oh.
I see both.
They're both pinned. Can everybody see it? Because I can see it on mine.
Go to speaker view on the top right, select speaker view. Otherwise, you won't see them side by side.
Speaker view.
I see it now. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Perfect. Great. Okay, so here we go. If everybody can see it looks kind of like coarse cornmeal. There's little, you can see the little bits of butter in there, and that's kind of where we want to be. We want to be right there. I'm just going to wipe my hands off a little bit. So now we have our liquid ingredient. There are some, not yet. So what I like to do is I'm mixing in currants. Some people put nothing in it. Some people put currants. Some people put raisins. Some people put caraway seeds. I'm adding just currants today because that's what we like in our house. And the reason I'm adding it now is because once we add our liquid ingredient to the flour, we don't want to mix it too much. So if I were to add the buttermilk and the egg to this now, and then put in the currants, you'd be doing a lot of extra mixing that you really don't want to do. So that's why I add them now. And just mix them around with a spatula. So I have 3/4 cup of buttermilk, and I have a whole egg, and we're going to separate it because we're only using the yolk. There are some recipes that don't use the egg. It's perfectly fine if you want to leave it out. It won't be as rich, kind of and cakey without the egg, and you'd have to add maybe a tablespoon or so of extra buttermilk if you're leaving the egg out. So I'm going to put that right in there. And I'm just going to whisk it together. I'm going to break up that yolk. There we go. We're just going to make a little well in the center. And we're just going to pour this in. I'm going to take my spatula and gently kind of mix it together, kind of pull all that flour into the middle where the liquid is. And we're just going to keep mixing. And you're going to see it's going to, start to come together. It's a little bit of a shaggy mess right now, but it will get there, I promise. There we go. Make sure you get all that flour up from the bottom. Okay. And we're gonna do the rest of it on the counter. So I've got a little extra flour here. And you want to take a few, like pinch a little bit of flour and just kind of toss it on there. And we're just gonna just lightly cover this with flour. We don't want to add too much extra. And we're gonna take this and we're just gonna dump it out on the counter. Okay. There we go. And very gently, we're gonna start pushing it and squeezing it together. You might need to put just a little bit on your hands. It's a little bit sticky, but that's fine. That's what we want. We want it to be just slightly sticky. And we're just gonna gently, you might do 1 or 2 kneads just to put it together. Just knead it like once, twice, maybe a 3rd time. We still have a little bit of flour there we want to incorporate. Just very gently though. You don't want to be vigorously, you know, as vigorous as you would with bread dough. Okay. And we want to get it into like a little ball. And just pat it down. So for those that you need a reference, the ball I made is about almost 5 inches in diameter, and it's about 2 inches high. I'm just going to put that over to the side, and we're just going to clean up a little bit. So I think Connie was baking along. How far are you in the process, Connie? You can unmute yourself and let me know.
I am right up with it.
Perfect. Oh, excellent.
Oh, nice.
Is it
So I'm going
supposed
to take a, I'm going to take a,
Is it all right if
Yes.
I ask you
Did you have a question?
It's not entirely smooth.
It doesn't have to be entirely smooth. You might want to maybe just knead it 1 or 2 more times.
Okay.
Okay. So actually, I wonder if we can see yours. Can you hold it up to your camera? Let me see if I can see yours. Let's see. Where is Connie? I have to find your picture.
She's holding it up to the.
Okay, hold on. I'm trying to find her. I don't see her. What do you
I'm here.
Oh, there's Connie. Okay, let's see. Let's see it. Hold it up again.
There she
Yeah,
is.
that looks pretty good. Yeah, you don't want to oh, it looks good. Yeah, you don't want to overwork it. So did you put currants in? You left it plain?
I put raisins.
Raisins, okay. So we've got a pan lined with parchment paper, and we're just going to stick it right in the middle, okay? And then we're going to take a knife. I like to put a little flour on just so it doesn't get stuck. And we're going to cut across in it about a 1/2 inch deep. You don't want to go too deep. I'm just going to do one way, and then I'm going to turn it. And we're going to do it the other way. Okay. And I like to take a little sugar and just sprinkle a little on top. Gives a little bit of a crunch. Okay. And I've got my oven preheated to 375 degrees, and I'm going to stick it in. Let's just cut it just a little more. And we're going to stick it in for about 30, maybe 35 minutes. I would say after almost 25, 30 minutes, I would start checking with a toothpick to make sure that it comes out dry. We don't want to let it go too long because then it'll get really dried out, but it should be a nice golden brown. And I have one baked to show you. So I'm going to stick this in my oven. And I've set my timer to 30 minutes. I'm going to start checking after 30 minutes because I know my oven. So everybody knows their oven. Does it run hot? Does it run cold? So I've set it for 30 minutes. And I have one that I baked this morning. And here it is. If everybody can see that. It's like nice golden brown. It's got the cross, and I'm going to get a knife and we're going to cut some slices. There they are. You can feel it's nice and tender. It's not too dry. Give it a little taste. I've been dying to taste this all day. You're so good. It doesn't need anything. It doesn't even need butter. It's just so delicious. It's really good. Another idea you could do with this, if you want to make it like scones, take this and take the ball and pat it out to about an inch thick, and then cut it into 8, slices like you would a pie, and then put them separate them on the pan, sprinkle a little sugar, and you can bake them that way. And they'll take much shorter time to bake than the whole bread. I would say maybe you could probably start checking at about 15 minutes, but that's another way to make it too. So anybody have any questions?
Any questions? You can unmute yourselves if you want.
Tina, I have a
Go
question.
ahead.
Sometimes,
Sure. What's your name?
my name's Karen. Sometimes in recipes,
Hi, Karen.
hi. Sometimes when you're using raisins, they tell you to soak them first. Do you have to do anything like that, and I don't know why they do tell you to do that.
Okay. Sometimes raisins or currants, if you have them a long time, there's nothing wrong with them, but they just dried out a little. But if yours feel nice and moist and plump, you don't need to do that. If they are dry, I would say maybe 15, 20 minutes before you start making your bread, measure out how much you need, pour in some very hot water and let them sit. And that would help them plump up a little bit. And then you can just drain out the liquid. But if your raisins or currants are nice and moist and they look nice and plump, you don't need to soak them in water. The only reason I would say to soak them in anything is there's a cookie that I make. It's an Italian cornmeal cookie called zaletti, and you soak the currants in either marsala or some fortified wine like brandy or something, because you want to impart flavoring on it. And I usually do that like overnight, so they really impart the flavor. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
There's another
Great.
question in the chat. Do you ever use caraway seeds?
I don't use caraway seeds because my family's not a big fan of them, but in fact, it's really interesting. So a very good friend of mine, he was a Grand Marshal 2 years ago for the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Eastchester. And I had posted a picture of my bread, and I said that I just put currants because my family doesn't like caraways. And he commented that that's the right way to do it, no caraway. So I guess it depends on your family recipe, where you're from, maybe where you're from in Ireland, whether you use the caraway seeds or not. So.
Any other questions?
I have a question. It's Mariette. I have 2 questions.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Sure.
How do you store it and how long does it keep?
Okay. Obviously, it's best the day you make it. I would wrap it very well in saran wrap. You can store it on the counter or you can store it in your freezer. I mean, you can make this for a couple of days, 3 or 4 days. I mean, if you're getting to day 3 or 4, a really nice way to do it is to slice it and toast it and put butter on it. That's really good. So you can have it for a couple of days, but make sure you wrap it really well. And I think it might last a little bit longer if you put it in the fridge.
I like the idea of toasting it. That sounds really good.
Yeah, that's really good.
Thank you.
And did you have a second question?
No, that was it. Story. How long does it keep?
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
There's
Okay. Perfect.
Question from Laura. When I make rum raisin ice cream, I soak the raisins in rum. That may be an interesting alternative to soaking in water for this recipe. And then
Yeah, you could. You could add some flavor into it. You could even do orange juice is another one, brandy. It all depends on your tastes. Make it your own. That's what's great about baking and, certain recipes. You can, you put your own little twist on them, make them the way your family likes them.
And then a question from Connie, how you're liking your new kitchen.
Thank you, Connie. I'm loving my new kitchen. I had this L-shaped peninsula that cut almost cut the kitchen in half, and now I don't have that, which is, it's just really nice. I had my sink on the corner, which was just a horrible design. Don't ever put your sink in a corner. It was terrible. We all kind of decided to mingle in that spot, and we'd be in each other's way. And yeah, but thank you for asking. Yeah, I'm loving it.
Any other questions? That was easier than I thought it would be, making the soda bread.
It's really easy. It's really quick to put together. The kids can do it because I don't think they're as crazy, mix it too, vigorously like, I don't know, maybe adult would, but it's a great project to do with the kids. Like I said, you can, make it almost like scone shape too, if you don't want to make the big loaf. And this one is, I cut it down. I made a smaller loaf. This one is, it's not too big, so if you're looking, to not have too much, baked goods around the house, I can understand that right now. This weighs.
Hi, Tina.
It's about a pound. Is that Donna?
Yeah, you did an amazing job as always. Great
Thanks,
presentation.
Donna. That's my friend Donna.
Thank
Thank you so much.
I wanted to ask you if you've ever baked it in cast iron, like a stove or a La Crusade or something like that pan, because I made it the other day, but I didn't use it either.
Okay, so did you do it on a pan?
I did it exactly like you did.
Okay, yeah, I've seen some people do it in a cast iron pan. I'm not sure how the heat, if it would generate too much heat, you'd have a really like over browned bottom. Like I said, you can try it. If you do it something like that, I would do it either the middle or maybe a little higher up in your oven, because I think that would conduct a lot of heat. And I wouldn't do it right on the surface. You could probably just put a piece of parchment paper. Let me see, I have a pan that I'd probably do it in.
That's great advice. Thank you.
This is a Le Creuset, and I do, it's enamel coated, and I love it because I make my cornbread in here. I put the butter in first, just a little bit, and then put it in. But you could take the parchment, and you can do it, if anybody can see. We have the second, oh, I don't see the second one, but if everybody can see. There we go. You can just put your parchment paper there and put your bread before it's been baked right in there and stick it in the oven. You can definitely do it that way.
Do you think you have to preheat the pan first or not?
I don't think so, because you know what, you're not preheating this pan. The reason I preheat it with cornbread is because I like a nice kind of crispy crust on the bottom. So I think it's going to be like trial and error. You could try it and see how it goes. I don't think for this you need to preheat the pan.
Great tips as always.
And error to see how it. Oh, thank you.
Great tips as always. I'm going to soak my raisins in whiskey next time for Irish.
Oh, good. Like Irish whiskey. That's perfect. And it's really good. You can put butter on it. You can put jam on it. You can put preserves on it. Some people do it without the sugar. So it's not sweet, and they serve it, they serve it with your corned beef and cabbage. You can serve it with soup. It's a nice, it's a nice bread. Doesn't have to be sweet.
Two questions. One is from Lori. If she makes it extra, can she freeze it, and for how long?
So freezing it baked, I would freeze it baked, because you probably, you could probably freeze it unbaked. I've frozen scones unbaked, and I put them in the oven, and they work out really well. You could freeze it, wrap it really well. I'd wrap it in plastic wrap, and then I'd wrap it in foil, make sure it's like double wrap, put it in the freezer. I wouldn't keep it longer than maybe a month. It might dry out a little. When you go to defrost it, I would take it out, leave it in the wrapping, and put it out on the counter and let it defrost. Because what happens is if you open it up, it might get a lot of condensation on the bread itself. if you do it while it's wrapped, the condensation will form like on the outside of the foil or the plastic wrap. So you could freeze it.
Another question from
Was there
Mike.
another one, Giovanna?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
What is the difference in taste between currants and raisins? Why do you prefer the currants?
I honestly, I'm not Irish. I'm Italian. The only thing Irish about us is my son was born on March 17th. So I believe that currants are a little more traditional. I like the way they taste, and they're smaller. They have a little bit of a different taste than raisins. It's just personal preference. If you like raisins, use raisins, the dark ones or the golden ones. If you like currants, use the currants. I actually prefer the currants. They're smaller, and I think they're just a tiny bit sweeter. They're just a little bit different flavor than the raisins.
A question from Gail. What shape should you cut the dough into to make scones?
Okay, so we made it into a ball that was about 5 inches in diameter by 2 inches high. You can keep patting it down till it gets about 1 inch high, and it might be maybe about a 7-inch in diameter. And from that circle, you can cut, like a pie, cut slices out of it, make 4 cuts, and then you'll have your triangles, and then just spread the 8 of them out on the pan, pull them apart, and then sprinkle sugar and put them in the oven. I would say start checking them at about 15 minutes. They're going to do much quicker than this whole loaf of bread.
Great. Any other questions from anyone? How about a question for you? For everyone, Tina will be back next month and also in May. So if there's something in particular.
I was just going to ask the same thing.
If there's something you want to see her make, let us know. Here's your chance now if you want to unmute or put it in the chat, and then we'll see what we could do.
Yeah.
Italian love cake.
Hi, Tina.
Oh, okay. Oh, I know who that is. Hello. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Nice to meet you. I'm thinking about that recipe, so.
We need to talk.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this. But Italian love cake has been a challenge.
Thank you. Oh, okay. It's kind of this, it's almost like magic, because you make the cake and then you put, you just kind of dollop like a ricotta filling on it, and it separates, and you get this 2-layer thing going on. It's really amazing. You when you put it in the oven, you don't think that it's going to happen, and it does though.
Well, I know I've written about it in my book, and I've made a couple of them, but I clearly need a better recipe.
Okay. Well, I'm working on it.
There was another question about what to bake. One of your favorite, they would love one of your favorite Italian desserts.
Oh my goodness. There's just so many. I can't, it's like, asking who your favorite kid is. Oh gosh. I love Italian cheesecake. I know we're doing it after Easter. Let's see, what else is there? I love cream puffs and egg eclairs. They're really not traditionally Italian. I know you can get egg eclairs in an Italian bakery. But I think we did cream puffs once before. I know I did them at the library before all of this shutdown happened. That was a lot of fun doing it in person. So hopefully we'll be able to get back to that soon. There's so many things here. I'm trying to think of something that there's not a lot of downtime, like something that requires like the dough to rise. You couldn't necessarily bake along with me, but I could have it in stages and show you exactly how to do it. I know people are babka crazy. We could maybe do a babka and show you how to cut it and twist it. I could do something like that. There's tons of things. If anybody thinks of something, just, you can, send, Giovanna an email or something, or even DM me, and we can see if we can make it happen.
Somebody said maybe rainbow cookies.
Rainbow cookies, yes.
And then,
I'm working on a recipe right now that I'm not ready to release yet, but there are so many good ones out there. I can just, I can take some, like Lydia Bastianich has a good recipe. I could just make her recipe if you want to, me show you the steps and, some little, tips on how to make them, that we could do. Definitely we could do.
and then Dina mentioned, a few people mentioned, Nancy Wagner mentioned the crostata that you made at West Harrison. That was also on site.
Yes.
But
We
could
had,
do that
we had
again.
about 8 or 9 people there.
We
We
could
had,
do that again.
it was a lot of fun, but we needed to chill the dough, and it was so hot that day. It was like one of the
Oh.
hottest, I think it was like in June, and it was like such a hot day. But we got through it, and everybody took their crostatas home and baked it at home, and it worked out great. So that was a lot of fun.
Then another vote for chocolate babka.
So, okay.
And then a question, do you ever make sausage pie at Easter? The savory, not the sweet.
Yes.
Is that like the pizza rustica?
Yeah, the pizza rustic. Yeah, the pizza rustica. So last year I came up with a tart version of it, a little, one that's not so high and so big. I know because there were smaller gatherings last year, and when you make that, it's a big pie. It's a commitment. It really is. So I have actually, it's on my website. I have we can do something like that too. I know it's after Easter, but that's good any time of the year. We can do something like that.
Okay. It all sounds good.
Because that's the same dough as the crostata, the pasta frolla dough. We could make it a little longer and do a sweet with that dough and do something savory with that dough. So, and we could also do, I know that if anybody's watching the show on CNN with Stanley Tucci, it's like all the rage. And they're making like a budino di riso, which is like a rice pudding in a crostata crust. We could do something like that too.
And you can register for the next program on Thursday, April 8th at 3:00. So if you haven't registered, you can still do that. And I guess it'll be a surprise what we decide, right? What Tina decides. I was hoping.
And then we'll let everybody know, and we'll get a recipe out there, and
All right.
Let me check on my soda bread. I know Connie's baking. How much longer does yours have?
About 7 minutes.
Oh, okay. I think I got mine in after you. Mine has about 10 minutes to go. Yours might be out before mine.
Actually, I only put it in for 20, 25 because I was afraid I would overcook it. So it might be a little like close.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. That's a good idea. To always better to underbake than to overbake. You can always leave it in a few more minutes, but if it's gone past, you're done.
It's starting to look good though.
Oh, good. It's puffing up and it's starting to get brown.
Yeah.
Good. So a little tip about ovens too. Oven thermometers are really inexpensive. Go to the hardware store and get one. And that way you can see exactly how off or how accurate your oven is, because I had my oven started to go. It was 20 years, so we had to replace the oven. And it was starting to, not cook as quickly. And you find that, you're setting your temperature to 350 and you put the thermometer in there and it says it's like 325. I'm like, why is everything taking so long to cook? So that's a really inexpensive investment to make, especially if you do a lot of baking. Cooking is not so bad. You stick your chicken in there, you check the temperature in the chicken, make sure that it's done. So that's not so as critical, but baking is a little more finicky, and your oven temperature could throw off the way your end product is. So that's another inexpensive investment to make if you like to do a lot of baking. Make sure your oven is where it should be.
Any other questions?
One of the best tips
Anything
I ever
else?
got from you, from Tina, it was those I did go to that crostata class at West Harrison, and I got
Oh,
those paper. I got those paper pans that you.
Yes.
Oh, that was a good tip. So
Yeah.
thank you.
So that was a really fun class. So what we did was I was able to get like they're heavy duty. They're commercial grade. They're heavy duty paper molds that look like a tart pan, and they're coated, so they're non-stick. And we made them in those, so everybody was able to take them home and put them on a cookie sheet and bake them right in the oven. So that was fun to do.
And I went out and bought
So
more.
I'm glad you
because I
enjoyed
thought
it.
was so great. It was a great.
Good. Oh, great. Yeah, that's a good tip. And it's nice to if you're giving it as a gift, you're bringing it over to somebody's house. It's nice to give it to them in the mold, which is nice. And you don't have to worry about getting your plate back or anything.
Or unmolding it and breaking it when you take it out.
Or exactly.
Tina.
Yes.
So yesterday, as you saw, I tried to make it and I forgot to put sugar in the batter.
That's okay.
One of my chefs had a great idea and I wound up doing it and it worked out. I made an icing, with lemon and confectioner sugar on it. And it actually tasted better because the sweetness was like controlled to the top part. Have you ever done it?
Oh, okay. Good idea. So if you forget your sugar, there's always a way to make it, or you can you can toast it and put like jelly on it or something if you want to up the sweetness if you forget your sugar. But another good tip is to make sure that when you're baking, you have all your ingredients out. I mean, I've done that before, out of sight, out of mind. If it's not out on the counter, and I've forgotten sugar and things too. So that's another good tip. Make sure you have your ingredients out where you can see them, everything that you need for your recipe, and that way you won't omit anything.
That's a great idea.
We have two questions.
If you see it, you're good.
Two questions about the cake pans, the name and where you can buy them.
Which cake pans?
Like the ones that you mentioned that you use for the crostata. I guess you just.
Oh, okay. Yeah, USA Pan is a good pan. Another one I like is the brand is Fat Daddy-O. I know it's kind of a funny name. I believe you can find them at NewYorkCake.com. They have a warehouse in Yonkers, so you could actually order it. You can have it delivered. You're going to have to pay shipping, or you can drive there and pick it up if you're local to Westchester. But USA Pan, you can order. They have them on Amazon or they have them on their site. Their pans are very good. I like their loaf pans. I like their muffin pans. So.
Okay. And somebody mentioned that they do something similar with a scone in terms of the icing. They brush the tops with milk and then sprinkle sugar right before baking.
Yep.
To get the
milk or cream on top of if you really want a shiny top, you can do a little egg wash. Just mix up an egg, a whole egg with just a pinch of salt in it, if you want a shiny top. But I like the way these look, just the way they are. Now that I've cut it, I have to eat it now. It's really bad.
Otherwise, it'll go dry.
I have to farm it out. And now I have another one in the oven, so my neighbors are going to get some.
Well, you can always drop some off here at the library, and I'll make sure everyone gets a piece.
Yes.
So before we go,
let me see. I might be.
Oh, you're gonna check it? Okay.
Mine might be ready to come out. Let me take a look.
It must smell heavenly in her kitchen.
It does. It actually smells really good. Yeah, I have like another 3 minutes to go till it gets to about 30. So if we've got something to talk about for about 7 minutes, we might be good, and you get to see it come out of the oven.
I could share my screen and show you a little bit of what I was mentioning earlier. This is the program.
Yeah, all the programs at the library.
We have a new Food Lit book club, and we have cookbook authors Alexander Smalls, author of Meals, Music, and Muses, Recipes from My African American Kitchen. And then we have John Morisano and Mashama Bailey, who wrote Black, White, and the Gray. And their restaurant, I think, is based in New Orleans, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. So this is with Book Yaya. So you do need to go to the Book Yaya site, which is available through the description on the library page. And this is where you would go and then get your free ticket. You do need to create an account. So you sign up. It's a free program, and they do a number of events, not just with us, but with a number of other libraries. So that's coming up this Thursday. And I'm just going to click on a few things here and there. We have this children's author, Fran Quittel, who's coming to talk about how she wrote her children's book. And that's on Monday, March 29th at 7 o'clock. So she had an idea for a children's book, which was inspired by a quilt. And she created this book called The Central Park Lost Mitten Party. And it's been very successful. It's featured in the Central Park Visitor Services Center, and it was at the FAO Schwartz flagship store. So that's coming up on March 29th at 7 p.m. And that you register with us. You don't need to go anywhere else. And for Women's History Month, we have Toni McKean, who's lectured a few times with us, and she's all over. She's at the Westchester Italian Center and other libraries giving her talks. And this month, because it's Women's History Month, she will be featuring at the Harrison Library, Helena Rubenstein and Emily Roebling. And that's Saturday on March 20th at 2 p.m. And that you also can register. All of these you can register for online. It's very straightforward. And let me just show you. You go right down here, you put your email and your name. Just make certain that your email address is correct, because I know a few times when we send out the link, we get it returned to us because we didn't have the exact email address. And then I'll just show one more, this Create a Masterpiece with Connie Manna. And she'll be showing us how to make this. We'll provide you with the canvas, or at least the first 20 people who sign up, the canvas, the paint, and the paintbrush. You just need to add the water. And we'll be painting Girl in a Boat with Geese. And that's an evening event. Another one I just want to mention that I think is important, especially now with all the talk about vaccines, White Plains Hospital is coming back to give a virtual talk on debunking vaccination myths. And that's with Dr. Christopher Robles on Tuesday, April 20th. So I know it's a little bit away from now, but you can mark that on your calendar. And it's a free program. All of our programs are free. And I know a few of you enjoyed the Tibetan Sound Healing with Karen Reeds. She will be back on Tuesday, April 13th at 4 p.m. And it's a wonderful experience if you've never participated in the Tibetan singing bowls and the sound healing. It really does relax you and it does improve your sleep. And I think it does also help with the pain management and anxiety. So I highly recommend that. And then a new program starting next month, not new to the library, but we haven't offered it in a while, Zumba Gold. So when you're done eating your Irish soda bread, don't feel guilty, because then you can take one of those Zumba Gold series classes with Diane Zorg. And it's good. It's intense, but not as intense as regular Zumba. But it's
oh, that sounds great.
Burn your calories. And that she'll be with us about twice a month at 11 a.m. on Thursday, starting on April 15th. And that's just a little bit of what we have coming up. And then this one is coming up on Friday that I mentioned at the beginning. We have a program with a new local business called Fresh Healthy Spot. And they're located on 215, or I think actually it's 13 Harrison Avenue. And because the owner will be showing us some of his most popular drinks, how he makes them, the smoothies, the health drinks, you will be able to stop by the shop on the day prior, before the program on Thursday, March 18th, and say you're with the Harrison Public Library, you signed up for the program, and you're visiting to get your sample. And that's happening on Friday, March 19th. And it's a new business.
That's
So
really nice.
we try what we can to support our local business. And now I will stop talking.
Okay, I think I'm just about I think it's just about ready. Let me go check. Okay, here we go. And that's what it looks like. It looks like it's done. Another trick they say is to turn it over and the bottom sounds hollow. It should be done. But there you go.
Wow. Beautiful.
Let
just
it
as
cool
perfect.
before. I know the temptation to cut it when it's hot, but it will cut much better when you let it cool a little. I would let it sit maybe for about 10 minutes on the pan and then take it off and put it on a rack so that it can cool all the way around.
Very nice. Excellent.
There you go.
All right, everyone. That concludes today's program. So thank you so much for joining us. In the next program,
Yeah, thanks everybody.
We'll hope to see you in April, in a few weeks, actually, in about 3 weeks for the the next baking program. So we'll hope you can join us. And if you have any ideas for something you'd like to see baked, just let us know and we'll see what we can do to make it happen.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for
everyone.
spending the afternoon with us.